fishing. People, when you're in the mood, let's go fishing. Well, it's just me and you. Head on down to the fishing hole. Grab your hat, get your pole. Let's go fishing when you're in the mood.
Canadian sport fishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, Conquer Outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait Cloud, bring the fish to you. Easy Docker, docking made easy. Yes, River, first walleye. See if I can get him up. That water, there, look it. You know, because I'm in like 26 feet of water, I try to reel them up pretty quick, because a lot of times if they're bigger fish, you won't get the hooks into them. Look it. Nice walleye. I had to keep the boat straight here. That's one nice thing about an electric. You can really control the boat. Look at, gorgeous fish, hooked just slightly in the top of the mouth. Look at, this is the Lunker City. It's like a pro jig. You can see how far back that jig goes. So a normal jig would be about 3/4 of the way back. This one is quite long, and it hooked it perfectly. Look, right there, and look. I kept the pressure on because I was in about 26 feet of water, and that hook stayed in there. And that's a perfect place to hook the fish. So even though this is a perfect eating size, I'm going to be releasing it. Look at, nice plump walleye. Man, that water's cold. You know, we're the middle of May, and these fish are, I think it's like fishing in April. So I'm going to get this guy back. Beautiful walleye. And I know that water's cold. Boy, he didn't take long to take off. Now look, I'm going to show you this hook again, because I know for those of you that are passionate jig fishermen, number one, it's got a flat head. It's not round. So that actually helps when it's falling down. It'll actually plane from side to side. I think it adds flash. Can you tell it's spring? The leaves are just starting to bud. Lots of dandelions are out. I can hear the nice sound of birds. And spring is here, and we can go walleye fishing. And I love to walleye fish in fast water. The one problem we have this spring is high water levels because of all the runoff, rain, ice, and snow we had over the wintertime. So that means that a lot of our docks are actually underwater, and to the point that it's hard to get out on the docks. And I'm glad that we've got these easy dockers that we can actually use to connect the dock to the boat anywhere we want, even though there may not be eye bolts or eye rings or cleats sticking out of the water. So the one challenge today too, because the water has been higher when we launched the boat, the first thing I did was put in our Go Fish Cam in the water and checked out to make sure that the boat launch was okay, that there weren't a lot of boulders that I was going to get my trailer stuck on it. So once we got that out of the way, then we started heading out to one of our favorite spots. Yes! You know, it's so early in the year and the water is so cold that these fish aren't fighting so hard. The water is in like the 40 Fahrenheit range, which is pretty cold. Look. Now this fish has an interesting thing. He's got like a curved tail. Can you see that at the bottom? He's probably gonna take off right away. Yeah, this is almost like getting fish ice fishing. There he goes. Today, we're targeting post-spawn walleye. Now, usually when walleyes finish spawning, the males will stick around in the fast water. They're the smaller ones, and they'll usually start feeding pretty heavily. The larger walleye, the big females, will have concave stomachs, and they take a little bit longer to recover, but they're also in the same area. So to find these fish, we're looking for spots where there's little rises in the bottom, anywhere from about, I'm going to say 30 to 24, even 25 feet coming up. Some of the best spots to fish are actually spots that don't have a lot of features. So we're not fishing heavy structure or structure breaks along the shore. We're actually fishing, I'm going to call them flats, that are in open water where the walleyes are resting, both the males and the females. And if you were to see the way the bottom looks, it actually looks pretty generic. You know, for this early season fishing, I think it really helps to use a lighter line. And what I'm doing is using that suffix. This is the 832. You can see it on the reel. It's like a yellow color, but it's really limp. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, 10-pound test. So it's really light. And I can really feel everything. I've actually missed about 3 or 4 fish because I've been dropping it down and I've been trying to keep the line pretty vertical. And this is where the electric trolling motor comes in handy. So I've been dropping it down, lifting it up, dropping it down, making sure the line goes limp. And then when you go to lift it up, you know, you feel just a little bit of an extra weight. It kind of feels like bottom, but you got to set the hook. And as soon as you set the hook, the bottom lifts up and it's a walleye, you know, so it's kind of neat. Yes. Feels a little bit bigger. Get him in here. Unhook him. There. Look at, isn't that brilliant? Because that water's so cold and I haven't had them out long, these guys have so much energy. Look, good thing I'm using a short basket net. Just trying to reverse it. Watch. Ready? He's gonna disappear. There he goes. You know, I'm looking at this Lunker City finesse fish with finesse fish head, the actual jig head, and it amazes me what a simple lure it is and how well it works for walleye. It's not scented, it's not salt impregnated. I think it's just the way it's designed. You can see that it's very narrow and that it has a lot of action from side to side. I personally believe that's the main reason why the finesse fish works so well. Now, as far as size goes, you know, when we fish for panfish, we'll use a 2.5-inch one. For all-round walleye fishing, even for big walleye and even small walleye, I find that the 4-inch size, now the 4-inch is from the tip of the plastic right back to the tip of the tail, so this is actually a little bit over, because this 3/8-ounce jig head is a little bit longer. One is like a silver flake black back, and the other one is like a, call it like a brown-green back, which is a little more of a subtle bait fish, and they both have like that pearl white color. So they come into these bags, and what I like to do is instead of taking them out and putting them in, you know, individual compartments, I actually keep them right in here. So you can see here, this box is kind of nice. It's almost like a storage box. So it has partitions, and you can actually move the partitions around if you want to. But I keep the plastics in the bags, all the different sizes. I find that that's much easier. And then I have boxes, smaller boxes with different size jig heads. Closed captioning is brought to you by K100. We make water burn. Yes, nice head shakes. Beautiful, chunky walleye. Look at hook just in the snout. You know, one thing that I've been doing is using a little bit stiffer rod. This is one of these R-types, and it's beautiful because you can feel the bottom, and the tip is nice and stiff. It's called a fast action, so that you get a really good hook set, even with the lighter braid. These guys have been eating really well. Beautiful spring fish, cold water. Okay, so if I can reverse the net. Perfect. He did that like classic. I want to show you this grip because I really like this R-type rod. It's kind of a retro. You know, look at, it's got that extended, this is called a fighting butt. So it's nice because you can put it along your arm when you're fighting the fish. But I really like this combination of cork. This is like, it's kind of like a hybrid. So they've taken the cork, which is real cork from a tree, and crunched it all up and then put it all back together. So it's a little bit stronger, but it still has that really nice feel. And what I like is that it's got a really short foregrip. When you're targeting walleye in deeper water, especially moving water, you gotta go with a little heavier jig head. So I go with a minimum of a 3/8-ounce weight. Sometimes if the water's slack, I'll go to a 1/4, but usually 3/8 and sometimes even heavier. In places like the Detroit River, we'll even go up to 5/8-ounce jig heads because some of the current breaks are a little bit faster. They're more like 2 miles an hour as opposed to 1 mile an hour. So the whole idea is to keep that jig head in contact with the bottom about every 2 seconds. And the only way you can do that is if you use an electric trolling motor to either push back or thrust yourself forward so that your line is as vertical as possible. If the current catches your line, it's impossible to feel the bottom, and that's where the walleye are. It also helps to use a braided line. that has no memory, so it free falls, and the lighter the line you use, the lightest the braid, the better it is for getting your jig down and for feeling the bottom, even in some of the stronger current. So this is the Mad Tom. It's actually made by Case Plastics, which is part of Fishing Complete. So they do all kinds of plastic, zipper, soft worms, and so on. But I find this one, maybe people don't know about, but it looks just like a goby, and it works really well, and fish just don't come up and nibble on it. They come up and inhale it. And the way you fish it is you let it hit the bottom, you lift it up. And when you lift it up, because it has this flat bottom, see how flat that is? And because it's wide, it's kind of cut wings, or the fins, when you lift it up, it actually goes to one side, planes, and then planes to the other side. If the water's murky and I'm fishing down as far as, 20, 30 feet, because there's less light intensity, I'll go with the brighter color. But if I'm fishing the shallower water, if I'm fishing, rock piles and so on, I'll go with this. It's almost like a motor oil color. So this is what it looks like when you buy them, and you can see the colors, very easy to spot. And I just keep them in this little flambeau box, which is kind of handy. So I keep them in the actual Ziploc bags because I find that they store much better that way. Wow, this guy's head shaking like a bass. I can't get over how he inhaled. I put on a lure called a Mad Tom. I don't even see that lure sticking out of his mouth. This is interesting. What a nice walleye. He hit like a smallmouth. Look at, still doing the head shakes. Get him in here. Look at, there it is. So I'm just gonna lay the fish down in the net. So this is this Mad Tom that I was using. See how it looks like a goby? It's got that little tail with the little fins. Time to get you back. And he's gonna take off real fast. He's gonna get that net out of his mouth. Come on. Come on, his teeth is on it, there. Fishing electronics are important when you're fishing deeper water. I use it for a couple of reasons. One, the track that I leave behind is very important because if I hit a fish, I want to know where I was in relationship to the current break and the bottom flat that we're fishing. So that's one of the reasons. That's usually on my chart, the hydrographic chart. The other one is the one that's at the front on my electric trolling motor, and in my case, it's the Element by Raymarine, and I can see the bottom in the down vision extremely well. So most of the time, these walleye will be right on the bottom. So it almost looks like a line that's stuck to the bottom, but coming up where it's normally flat. Okay, River, have we got a fish on? You're like a hunting dog only for fishing. You knew exactly when I set the hook that I had a fish on. Head first. That's a good plan. That finesse fish just popped out. And come on, just want to show you off because you're such a pretty animal. Look at, you can see those eyes. They've got such big eyes. They're such a good predator. So this guy's long, but he's not thick. You can see how lean it is. So it's just starting to feed again. Say bye-bye. There you go, bye-bye. When I'm fishing deeper water, I notice, especially if I have friends that haven't fished deeper water, I'll hook up fish, and sometimes 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 10. They won't hook one fish. We're using the same outfits, same line, same jig size, same, finesse fish on the bottom, or whatever soft plastic we're using. And they don't understand why they're not getting fish. I know why, and I try to explain it to them. Walleye, when they hit a jig in deeper water, where there's moving water, literally jump on it, and a lot of times it feels like bottom, like you just pulled it over a rock, or you feel a tap on your line. If you don't set the hook right away, if you keep just dragging your jig or leaving it suspended, the walleye will exhale it immediately. I have to share something off camera, because normally when we're doing the TV show and you're seeing underwater footage, you're not seeing us actually run underwater cameras and do the footage. What I'm holding up is part of my selection. These are called the Go Fish cams. They almost look like a bullet or almost like a cigar. But I'll tell you what, they are pretty amazing. So this is the front, the lens right here. This is the wire. that you actually tie your line onto one end. It's actually referred to as an inline camera because this camera hangs like this upside down. And if you can imagine, you've got your line tied there in a leader, and I'll show you in a minute. If your lure action, you can get fish striking, or even for jigging, working it up and down, it works great. So this is a floater that you get with each camera. Of course, you should put the cap on. I just haven't put it on yet. And you just slide that over like that. And you can imagine you can be still fishing or fishing with bait. And because the Go Fish is out of the water, you can actually see what it sees, you know, if you're still fishing, maybe for trout or for panfish or for game fish, right out along the bottom. Now, let me show you the way I had it rigged up yesterday, which is kind of a unique way because I was fishing very close to the bottom. I was actually trying to get walleye and white bass footage, but I ended up getting musky following my Rapala. So what I've done here, I've taken one of the Go Fish cams, and you can see I've used some small nylon ties, and I've attached it to a bottom walking sinker. So the advantage with the bottom walking sinker is that it'll sink pretty quick to get it down, and I control pretty fast. Then I have my leader of line, and I like to go with about, I'm going to say 3 to 5 feet, depending what lure I'm using behind it. So these little wings, by the way, that the Go Fish Cam have is ideal because it stabilizes it. You know, when we're drifting in faster current areas, there can be a real mix of fish, especially in the springtime. Sucker runs take place in the springtime, and in the Great Lakes we have a great sucker fishery and very healthy populations of suckers. And these suckers will usually lay along the bottom. And a lot of times when you're vertical jigging and you're trying to catch walleye, sometimes you'll hook a sucker. So they're very common. I think it's kind of neat because the suckers, remember, in their juvenile stage are an important food, especially for larger walleye. Oh, this is funny. I have a sucker on, but that's okay. You must have been holding where the walleyes were. Come here. This is a common white sucker, so I'm just getting my gloves off so I don't get them too wet and slimy. Now, this guy is spawned out. Suckers spawn in the spring, much like walleye and steelhead, and this is a white sucker. And you know what? A lot of people actually target them in the tributaries. They use worms, a hook, and a couple of split shot. They're a lot of fun to catch. Yes! We had a little bit of a lull there in the action. And what I did, I put on a little bit heftier swim bait. It's called a freaky fish. It's a little bit bigger. I think it did the trick. Nice walleye. Come on. Beautiful. Yeah, you can see that is a 5-inch freaky fish, and you can see the way he grabbed it. He wanted it. That's about I'm guessing about a 3.5 pound walleye, nice eating size. And look, hooked just in the tip of the snout. Okay, time to get this beautiful walleye back into the water. You know, the lines that I use for fishing are critical. There are times when I want to use a clear monofilament line, and there's a reason for it, like for steelhead fishing and stuff like that. And there's a time when I want to use a colored braided line, and there's a reason for that, especially when I'm fishing for walleye. So what I have loaded on this Chaos reel is, this is the Suffix 832 braid, and you can see that it's a white color. I believe they call it Ghost. The reason I want to see it when it hits the bottom, a lot of times the walleye will jump on it when it hits the bottom. And sometimes you'll see the line jump. If you're using a line that's invisible, it's really hard to see that, especially if it's overcast skies or you're dealing with green water. So in the shallower water, I'll use the 12 pound, and especially for intermediate and smaller size fish. If I'm fishing in deeper water, like I did today, I'll probably go with the 15 pound, where I don't have predators that I've got to contend with, like pike or muskie. And then if I'm fishing in an area where there's a lot of pike and muskie, I'll even go to 20 pound. You know, walleye are part of the perch family, and if you've ever looked at perch underwater, they'll school up together. They're very bright underwater, and they like to be around structure, and they like to feed around sand. And usually where there's one, there's more of them. Same thing goes for a walleye, because in fact they're a bigger perch. So I think they're beautifully colored. You got to be careful because both perch and walleye have pretty spiny fins when you're handling them. They have very sharp gill rakers. But the one thing they have in common also is the coloration. They're beautifully colored. Feels nice and heavy too. Look at the bend. This is classic walleye head shakes. He's just going side to side like this. Coming up, come on. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Big head shakes, look at. Wow, is he pushing water? Just engulfed it too. Look at, what a big walleye. He does not like that jig head, that's for sure. Tell you what, with one arm, this is quite a job here. Okay, try not to get slime all over the console. There, look at how long. I think this fish is over 28 inches. River, how are you doing, sweetie? Got that sun moving around. Look at how big he is. Big head shakes. That jig head is just there. Want to get him out onto this vigorous material so he's in good condition. Okay, what do you think, River? Have I got a guess from you? Gonna go from there to, he is 29.5 inches. So long fish, but thin. Look at, there's that finesse fish. These are nice curved pliers, so I can get them right on the hook. Look at that, nice hook removal. And tell you what, he's this fish could probably be like 9-10 pounds if it had its full weight. It's a big female, and you know, these fish are starting to feed like crazy because they've just finished spawning. I'm gonna say maybe 2-3 weeks ago. So I want to get her back in the water in this nice mesh. Oh, boy, what a fighter. I love those head shakes. Here we go. I'm just going to extend it out. Okay. See if I can just get its head out. Look at that. What a beautiful animal. Oh, yeah. Love to see them take off like that. Oh. Canadian Sport Fishing has been brought to you in part by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha, Conquer Outdoors. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Bait Cloud, bring the fish to you. Easy Docker, docking made easy. So you can see how this looks like a real shad. So it's got a thin body. Now, look at, this is called a freaky fish. So I'm gonna put them beside each other. See how the freaky fish is wider? It's got more of a cylindrical shaped body. It's also longer. It's 5 inches long. And it's really made to be fished on a jig head like I'm using it, or on a single hook.